From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, evacuation numbers, and life itself, the ultimate adventure that we're all on here right now. I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jenn Landa, reporting live from my smoky room.
And I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I can see ominous clouds, but no flames. So that's good.
We're laughing because what else can you do right now? We are going to take a dive into episode 7 of Skeleton Crew, but the 6th episode of our review show, Skeleton Crew. We are broadcasting, recording in the middle of, like I said, we're laughing, but it is a serious situation. Fires around us. A lot of you are seeing the news at the time of this recording and reaching out via Discord, a lot of our ForceCenter community. Normally, I even joke, like, that earthquake was at 3.2, 9 miles away. Don't worry about it. We're all in kind of different situations of alert. And some people I know have had to evacuate. Some people I know have lost their houses. So we're only joking in terms of gallows humor because that's how we process it here. But we are here to talk about this episode. I will say before we get to it, we are, as always, brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. You know the drill. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Check out any book you want today on us. We're recommending Aftermath by Chuck Wendig, but you can get anything. Download your free audiobook today. How about the show and the process at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. So there we go. That's my opening. Salvo, how are you all doing?
Jen?
My husband's vacuuming our air filter right now, so I'm going to mute myself.
That's a good idea. It's safe. No, it's good. It's good.
Yes, I sometimes talk about my action figure obsession in a joking way, but this morning I did have to go through the mental list of like, okay, but which two would I grab? Because before my wife went to work, she did say we should have the to-go bag pack, and we got water and food, and then I have to choose action figures. My original Yoda from the 1980s will be coming with me should I evacuate suddenly in the middle of this episode. Again, yeah. Ken is right to point out gallows humor because it's almost what you have to do to cope. I don't think any of us are in any immediate danger, but the nature of these fires are different. They're surrounding sort of the main body of the basin of Los Angeles and the valley where Ken is. Yeah. And with the wind, one spark could change things real fast. So we're all safe this second. Yeah. But I think also in this headspace of awareness that could change very quickly.
Very quickly. And yeah, you're talking about here in Burbank specifically, we had gusts up and over 71 miles an hour last night. Cat 1 hurricanes are 74. So at times in Burbank specifically, we were hitting 90 mile per hour gusts of wind. I'm going to go ahead and say might be something wrong with the weather is my thought of the world right now. Maybe we should look into it.
Reaching back to like 40 years of memories, the much discussed Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House. Captain Planet. Yeah, these are
the Carter era
known things. Science, facts,
the Carter
opinion.
The Carter era deal, which almost solved climate change, but the oil companies kind of reversed policy. I'm starting to think.
Yeah. I think. Not. Two different outlooks, two different ways to do things. One thing's a fact. And
yeah. Sorry.
I'm outside my door right now. The fact.
Yeah. Laughing because I've been yelling. There. So anyways, we're going to dive in. As Joseph said, the alert is real, but we're good and safe right now. We would not be broadcasting if I had one hand on it to go back and waiting for the Burbank Fire Department to knock on my door, which I think is okay in terms of funding. LAFD. Oh, I'm not going to start. I'll wait for Andor season 2 about who got more funding last time out in the budget in LA. Not the ones with the hoses. All right, let's start diving in here. Quick summary, and I do mean quick. I apologize. My second viewing, my notes viewing of this episode involved a lot of communication to friends and family concerned about what was going on, understandably. So quick look. We're going home. Episode 7. We're going home, and everything will start to be revealed. Both the crew, the Onyx, Cinder, and Captain Silvo and his pirates are racing toward the mysterious planet of At Attin. One ship is trying to get home. The other ship is trying to get their hands on limitless amounts of treasure, trust, faith, love, and the truth in your soul are all on display as we join the race to At Attin. Jennifer, if you can, give us your overall reaction.
I gotta fix my background, you guys. This is driving me nuts. But we're falling apart here. My pirate sails are not holding. I need to fix it
we
before
see
my
some of
child.
the truth
Yeah,
behind
My
you.
kid's bunk bed. Yeah, exactly. It hurts.
it's
So
it's
I
That's
gotta fix this.
a very
What do I
appropriate
do?
for
Yeah.
skeleton crew to see
It
Cat's bunk
is.
bed. Come on.
It
That's a
is.
problem.
Wait, do I stop my camera? What do I do?
Oh, you're good.
I'll be fine.
Unless you have some sort of
Fine.
shame of a bunk bed. It's Jen. It's really fine. It's
Okay, I'm gonna.
I want people to see us as we are today.
Oh, you'll get it all. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself.
I'm just trying to imagine what could be on the bunk bed that would be like upsetting. Like it falls away and there's like a tactical nuke counting down behind Jennifer. Like what could possibly
Hey,
be that
look.
upsetting?
We got the comforting image, but we got the comforting image of Yoda and C-3PO. Calmness and anxiety in situations like this. Those are the two wolves that are sold right now, Joseph. Well, Joseph, I'll kick to you. What is your overall reaction?
Yeah, episode 7. We're going to be in so much trouble. That's the title, right?
Yes. Yes.
Director
Thank you.
Lee
Thank you.
Isaac Chung, writers back to the showrunners, creators Christopher Ward and John Watts. My overall reaction is I continue to love this show, and kind of gobsmacked by it. Of like, it's so good. I think the big picture continues to be good. I think very well written. We're engaged with the characters. We're worried about them. We want to know what happens next. We're engaged with the mystery. I think it continues to look good. And I think it continues to kind of really fulfill this classic Star Wars vibe of it is fun and bouncy on the surface, but the stakes are very, very high. And I thought the episode did a great job of making the stakes even higher. I think my favorite thing about this particular episode is just the emotional whiplash of they're funny moments, fist pumping moments, heartwarming moments. I think the show started with both 33 and Jod kind of being parental figures, and the fist pumping moment of having 33 step up and go, yeah, I'm with the kids. And then not a shock, but the horror of not only Jod not being with the kids, but how against the kids he was in this episode. I love how it's such a weird thing to say, but I love how nasty, scary, and violent it got. There was nothing graphic, and I look forward to hearing the actual child report from Jennifer and her children. But I think for me, this is where Star Wars has always really been very successful. It earns its very nice messages of hope, stronger together, that could come off as sort of saccharine and easy by really putting the characters through hell and doing it in this very specific way where the hell is obvious, but it's not about graphic violence. And I thought this episode gets the Aunt Brew and Uncle Owen's skeleton stamp of approval, where it's not too terribly graphic, but it's horrible enough to really make you feel it. The killing of Brutus, not graphic, but pretty like, hey, kids, I know you're watching. I just shot this guy through the head. That's who I am. Yeah. It was especially after the fist pumping moment of the kids come up with a clever way to just grab him. It's like if Home Alone turned into Pulp Fiction with the flip of a switch. It's great. The lightsaber threats, the explicit of like, I'm going to chop your parents up, followed by the emotional cruelty of Jod just being awful to the kids and reflecting their deepest fears that you're weak and you're sheltered and all that. So I thought the nastiness of it is what made it really work.
Right there with you. I love that we kind of got some, like Jod Nanawood was legitimately scary, like you felt it. And once again, wonderfully performed in 7 weeks in the show. I don't want to keep repeating the same beats, but I've been really, it seems weird to say impressed by Jude Law, one of the most known movie stars of the last 25, 30 years, whatever you want to say. But I am just been won over by what it's done. He's still one of my favorite characters, even though this week he really committed. I still have a sliver of hope. I have a sliver of hope that he'll find some true love and connection and have a Star Wars redemption. But just some of the looks, the fire in his eyes, and it wasn't the lightsaber stuff was wonderful. All that stuff we'll talk about favorite moments in a second, but just I particularly like the moment where he was just like, "Shut the hell up, you annoying like kids," and it wasn't played for comedy at that point. It was the truth revealed. So, yeah, I'm with you. A high ranking for this episode, high rating, but because it was a little dangerous, violent, and mean. Which is weird for the series. But Jen, breaking news: the kid report. Did it happen? What's your overall?
Happen. Yes, we watched it all as a family last night, and it's a little choppy when watching it with them because my 9-year-old has a lot of questions that we're like, just watch it, it'll be answered. My 5-year-old was like, let's have popcorn and hot cocoa. I'm like, ugh. So it's a little disjointed for me. But overall, it was fascinating because I thought it was a great episode. There were a few things where I was not so sure about, but my 9-year-old loved it. She was very worried that the kids were going to die. She kept asking, are they going to be okay? Are they going to die? And I think because of how well Jude Law was playing it, how scary his threat was. But at the end, we were like, what did you think about him? And she said, well, I think that something bad must have happened to him when he was a kid. And we were like, do you think he's a bad man, or is there any bit of goodness in him? She goes, I think that there's a little bit of good in there. And then my 5-year-old was like, yeah, he saved the kids before, remember? I was like, it's just so fascinating because I was like, he's a bad man and this and that. And the fact that they picked up on that and they could see beyond it and see that he had why he was acting this way. I just was like, all right, kids. Good job. You taught me something.
I think that's so important. And I think it's sometimes we rant about like engage with the story you're presented with and all that. And we discuss these shows very analytically and, back up our arguments with quotes and evidence and that. But all of that for me comes from emotion. And that's what storytelling is, emotion. And it is great to just hear from like the children who aren't bogged down on, is that canon? Would Jude Law's agent allow him to kill? Like all of this sort of logic, that we can be entrapped by. It's just emotion. And I think that's our challenge a lot of times as audiences is get back to emotion. And yes, there are plot holes. Yes, there are logic. Yes, there's behind the scenes stuff. And that's all interesting to analyze. But the most important thing is just emotion. It's like you look at a river and the river flows the way it flows. And you don't go, that was a bad choice. Who designed that bend in the river? You just accept it and you let it wash over you and you react to it emotionally. And it's just so beautiful to hear that your kids are doing that. And I think picking up on what's there, even in his most nasty moment, there's a look of sadness in his eyes when he is calling them weak and sheltered. Yes. It feels like he is talking about himself.
Yes.
That's the first time I was like, maybe he did go through Order 66.
Right.
Because it felt like he was talking about himself. And the fact that your kids picked up on that just from the emotions is beautiful.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, like they had to remind me because I was so focused on Jude Law's performance. And it made me think, I was like, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if he's not going to, we don't know what his next episode will be like, but wouldn't it be great if he was nominated for this role? I think he has done such a fabulous job in playing all these different colors. I would love to see him nominated. I don't know if that will happen. What could this be nominated as? Limited series?
Limited series?
Yeah.
Comedy?
Yeah. Limited series. If they announce a season 2 where the kids are 32 years old.
Yeah. He and Jeremy Allen White can go for the comedy Golden Globe. It'll work out good.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. I do think, there's lots of, I didn't know anything about this, but I saw the discussion on social media that apparently Jude Law had said, episode 7, you learn a lot about Jod, and people had spiraled out thinking that was going to be a flashback and whatever.
Yeah.
But something you said, Ken, is interesting to me of like, we learned the truth. And I kind of feel like we learned a truth, which is what your kids said is clearly this character has it in him to go, yeah, I'm going to make sure they're fed. Yeah. Okay. It's tactical that Wim's crying and I should comfort him. But then he says sincere and real things to Wim. So that shut up. I hate hearing children speak. You're the worst. You're weak, pathetic. I think that's powerful and interesting because it isn't the truth. It isn't like mask off, I hate children. It's we all have this in us to absolutely love children and then be driven nuts by a child. And the same thing of everyone we love in our life. Like, my dad's the best person in the world. God, Dad, I'm so frustrated by that. Like, I think that's what makes the next episode so interesting. Is I don't think he's going to have necessarily this great turn where he becomes like a hero and I was faking it and I didn't really mean those mean things. He's a complex character with multiple truths.
Yeah, indeed. And I love what you're saying about him. You know, if speaking to himself or speaking to them as he was spoken to, whatever the trauma might be, and tracing it, and the truths he's revealed along the way, I've believed him every time. I think that's why they work. And he himself having all these different names and all these different identities and all these different perspectives and goals and pursuits, but it all leads to one road, right? The treasure. But it's still him along the way. I think we've seen it, and that's why. It's fascinating, Jen, that the kids just didn't pick up on that, but that was the focus. So, number one, they should launch a podcast immediately. Get on that early so you can start influencing early. Get an influencer agent. Like, what are we doing here, Jen?
Oh, no. They already are grabbing my phone and pretending they're doing YouTube stuff. Hey, guys.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
All of the YouTubers.
And I'm like, no.
Guys.
Hey, I is coming for the YouTubers next.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
Boy.
But anyways, sorry. Jen, any other overall reactions from you? We'll dive into some favorite moments and themes on the way.
No. The Order 66 thing, it kind of cracks me up. Like, I mean, we just get ahead of ourselves as fans. It just like, I'm sorry. It's just like, I can't imagine what that moment would have looked like and how it would have been I feel like it would have been jarring. It's not necessary. It's so much better to leave it like mysterious. We don't need to have answers for everything. It's okay, right? It's okay if it's never explained. Ooh. Or if
Star Wars never explained? All right, Alex and Molly can rebrand.
No, sorry. Not in that way. But it's you know what I mean? Like, my first instinct is to always look at Wikipedia with everything. And it's like, it's kind of good. It's a good test for me to know I'm not going to find that answer in Wikipedia. I have to be okay with not knowing. It's all right. Working through it.
Well, the thing, sorry, I think you're referring to like Molly put out a great post this morning. I saw Blue Sky of just like, an actor says this, we all run towards this, which is totally fine. And that's what Molly was saying too. But like, there's some facts you might want because it's just kind of fun. Is he this? Is he that? Was he trained under this person? Yeah, that absolutely is fun. But usually, like at that moment, the actor's talking about the character, the reveal, not a list.
Not like a canon thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, wait till you guys see. It's going to connect. No, he's too long.
And we'll see what we get in that final episode. But I also just think that there's joy and fun in not knowing, because I think we've been given so many breadcrumbs. He is quoting Qui-Gon. He does seem to know actual Jedi teaching. He doesn't seem to want the other pirates to know he has the Force. Once the kids knew, he did seem to start having some fun using it more freely on that pirate on the spa planet. Those are all interesting breadcrumbs. It's fun to think like, okay, was he trained? Did he leave before Order 66? Or what was his Order 66 experience? For me, it's a gift to be able to wonder for a little while instead of I'm going to set my watch and in 30 seconds, Pablo Hidalgo will tell me. Let us wonder for a little while.
Right. Indeed. Yeah. Absolutely. Good one. And you're right. Yeah, I want to be clear. Like the breadcrumbs are there and it's fun and Reva and the Flash, it all kind of works. It's just I think I just love this episode. Didn't give us those direct answers, and maybe they will come. Maybe he'll have a monologue. When I was trained in school, as he holds them all. Looking at some of our favorite moments as we move forward here. Gosh, once again, Joseph, you highlighted the writing is so crisp, and the comedy comes flying out. Yeah, I mean, Neil to me is just a comedy star. But he's a machine. This episode started with one of my favorite little bits, if you will, even though it had serious ramifications. But the parents' hot potato run from the droids was hilarious to me. I loved it, and I love seeing the adventure of the parents in the forest of their youth running and making this decision.
Yeah, the very sharp comedy of like, I'll run, getting stunned immediately was pretty great.
So I love that one there. It's a little slap ball with Fern and Neil actually getting to see it. I
Oof.
want to play slap ball. I'm in. I'm in with
Mhm.
Neil. Anyways,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
yeah,
And speaking of parents' nightmares,
yeah,
that looks like a game designed to break vases
yeah.
in your living room. Slap ball.
And I love what we've talking about. Just Neil always having that like the truth coming out in the quiet moments, whether it's the comedy in the background. He's got the great. It was a really fun adventure. Half the time I was about to die, but that's what a real adventure is like. He's got that, but like even with the slapball moment, where he's just like, "That was a great shot for." Like I love this kid. This kid
Yeah.
needs to lead us forward.
I loved his comedy line. We're dead meat. We're pirates meat.
Yes.
A specific kind of meat.
Just to be clear,
love that.
we were going to be,
Oh.
a trash crabs meat. Now we're
Yeah.
pirates.
Sweet. So that's some of my favorite moments. Got a couple more, but I don't want to hog them all. Jen, some moments jump out to you.
Seeing the kids' reaction to seeing their home planet, specifically Fern's reaction. Her reaction was beautiful. There were
Right.
so many things going on that I got overwhelmed with emotion myself. I was like, it was a lot, especially like with the parents' message and then the kids like wanting to hear their parents. I had to choke it back. I had to be, keep it together for my kids.
Yeah.
But I could hear my husband like exhaling, like, because that is just really, really, it was so real. Such a great moment that they had. Because I feel like in Star Wars, we're used to seeing like everyone being heroes and rising to the occasion and not really being afraid or being afraid but doing it anyways. And I don't know, there's just like this vulnerability that the show is showing over and over again. That just it feels really unique and different for me personally. And maybe it's because it's about kids and parents. That's why it feels so new to me, because I know that this has been woven throughout Star Wars, but I love it. I love it.
It's direct,
those
yeah.
reactions.
Yeah, no, I think
Right.
I wrote that down too. That shot of the light hitting them, the light of their planet, the light of their home. I think it dovetailed well with some themes that we'll talk about with the revelation of what the ship is, their empowerment, and then on top of it all, that the eye hole rat was staring out too. Like, wow,
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Yeah.
That made it for me.
Yeah, and when the SM-33 moment worked for me, both all the things you talk about, him standing up for the kids, and then his what I hope's not his death, but could be his death. But the eye hole rat getting angry and sad and almost squished. Like I'm so into these characters, I'm following the adventures of the rat even.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got my Jod and Anawad action figure, and I was like, hey, you crush that rat, I'm throwing it out the window.
Thank you, sir. By the way, I received the ForceCenter gift. I have Jod over there on my shelf. It's still I still have time to burn it.
He hurts that eye hole rat. He's going back, that action figure. Yeah.
The line you can't cross. It is funny.
Yeah. There's a lot of great moments of drama, a lot of great moments of action and comedy. I mostly wrote down great drama stuff. I think in directing and acting and everything, Farah releasing the communication device, that whole swirl of the barrier was really beautiful and strange. But that choice to keep her hands up, almost like there's this like I'm trying to send it with as much love and energy as possible, and just like almost like a moment, a weird sort of like moment of worship that easily could have just been I throw it up and then I look pensively and kind of hope that it'll be okay. But leaving the arms outstretched was this weird spiritual gesture that I thought was really powerful.
Really love that.
Sending it into the heavens, that desire to connect with her kids. I really loved the whole scene of the kids sort of all banding together to try to comfort Wim. And I really liked his sad, I never should have hit this stupid button. You get Neil's great comedy moment that also has a great meaning about adventure. But the I never should have hit this button is almost like I never should have accepted that I didn't want the life that was being presented to me of At Attin. I should have just given up and accepted. Like, I should have just gone to technical college, like my dad said. It's like, instead of following my dreams. I thought that was fabulous. kind of comedy action. I did love the punch to
Yes.
Jod's helmet. That is not only a
Great.
fist pumping. I guess it was literally a fist pumping moment
Yeah.
to Jod's head.
Yeah.
But it was so violent. The whole helmet cracking. Great stuff.
Love that. I have to shout out Wim's Leroy Jenkins moment because that's how I mostly play video games, and I'm with them there. Love it. I love that it didn't work. A lesson there for Fortnite players like me who run into the battle. What was there? Yeah. Yeah, just a great mix. I mean, we could go down to the weeds on each line in the moment, but great mix of comedy, drama, and just I don't know, a reality to it. Like I wrote down that I love Jod's kind of full turn moment of the killing of Brutus, and I love that the Lee Isaac Chung's directing decision to get that real push in on Brutus's eye. And not that I had sympathy for him, but I was like, oh man, yeah, that's the last look, and that's pretty serious. And so it's hard to it's weird to celebrate that. But kind of like what you were saying, Joseph, the Bruno and skeletons of we talked about a lot in Kenobi of this call for a darker, grittier Star Wars. I sometimes do understand what that means to some folks, and I understand it even for myself. But Kenobi starts with a tremendous amount of trauma that they had to put a screen warning up on. There's a reality to a lot of these stories that are there if you're looking for it. It's as dark and gritty as it needs to be at times, and this is one of those moments that I absolutely loved in terms of the execution of it. Oh,
Yeah,
pun
and I
not
like,
intended.
and I do like that they set up that Brutus had just said, like, I'm going to kill you the first chance I get, so you can have that. Like, okay, it's self-defense, but it's also, I think, a declaration of the pirate way of life. And kill or be killed, no hope that I could work this out. Sorry, Neil, I wasn't going to be able to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And solve this by telling Brutus I'm sorry, so I had to shoot him in the head in front of you.
It's the only thing the moment needed is just Neil in the background going, "You could have said I'm sorry." Yeah, maybe it could have been it. Could have been it. So those. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, sir.
There's a bunch, but the final one that I want to be sure to mention is I really liked the pause before Wim gets hugged by his dad.
Yeah.
That everybody else's relationship, even if there's any bumps in it, is immediate, and Wim is unsure if he has a hugging relationship with his dad for just a half second. I thought that was really powerful. That Wim stops for a second. It's like, is this how we greet one another? And his dad, pulling him into that hug. Beautiful.
Well played indeed. Yeah. Jen, any moments for you before we dive in deeper?
I thought Jod's reaction to seeing the vault, and then there was a nice shot of him, the medium shot where he's like looking over the piles of the riches, and there was so much going on in his eyes. It looked like he was going to cry. It was just like so many different colors. I was like, how is he doing this? This is just so like you can see every thought. It's incredible.
What I loved about that, I'm glad you highlighted that too. I'm sure it might come up in themes and other things, but like it's a moment where you're like, oh, I'm sure he's going to be really excited about the treasure, right? Like I think we've seen that play before. Money, like that's me at the Riviera in Vegas before it got torn down. But like, yeah, you're right. The layers to it. Again, I could hammer the acting choices over and over, but it was such a rich moment. Damn it, pun not intended again. But it was such a rich moment of just. It wasn't just money flying over him. It was all his life leading to this, and that is an empty pursuit, and we know it. And maybe I don't know. I just loved it. I loved how it played out.
Yeah, no, I think that's powerful to support the actual ideas of the show.
And speaking of the ideas of the show, we're going to dive in deeper. Joseph, take us through the themes. But I'll say this right now. Like I said, I have so little notes today. Please guide us through. I have a couple thoughts. But
Jennifer, what's your note situation?
It's sparse, very sparse.
Excellent. Well, we will all figure this out as we go along. I think that there's so many great ideas in the show that have been really consistent throughout the series, like we talked about, of what is adventure, sort of the idea of adventure as a metaphor for becoming an adult, the power of story, of when is it inspiring, and when does story block you from seeing reality, as sort of fantasy versus reality, all those different things going on. But I think one of the other ones, big themes that's been going throughout the show that this episode really focused on, is one of the ones that can sound the most saccharine and the most, oh, come on. But I really think it is what's the real treasure? And it's what we were just talking about with Jod is, the real treasure is, it's even an internet joke at this point of the friends you make along the way. But I feel like this episode was so elegant, and we're following what the kids want and need. We're following what Jod wants and needs. And on one hand, they look entirely different. Jod wants the empty, cruel, cold. I get treasure. And the kids want to get home. They want to know that their parents love one another. They want to be there for one another. Their treasure is community of friends between each other, of connecting to their family, of home and community and belonging. And Jod's treasure appears to be 1,139 volts of more wealth than he could possibly imagine. But I think what is there in that look in this episode and all along is the treasure isn't the treasure. The treasure is the fantasy that money can buy everything else. That it can buy the glowweed farm that's never going to happen for poor Glurb since he blew up.
Glurb. Sorry, Glurb.
Pour one out for Glurb and the glowweed farm. But I think the kids are really clear of what they want is family and connection, and made even more powerful by the treasure that they find of home and safety in their parents is what's at stake, is what's going to be taken away from them by God. But a couple interesting ways I think the episode underlines that the treasure isn't the treasure for Jod. It's the means to filling all of those wounds in his soul. Is he wants to be loved, and that has been throughout the show. Of he wants to provide treasure for his family, and then his family in the very first scene throws him in the brig for failing him, for not being the leader, the dad, the parent that he needs to be. He has that back and forth with Brutus this episode of the crew loves me. The crew loves plunder. No, the crew loves me. And I think in his mind, successful plunder is love. If I provide for them, they will love me. And I think that connects back to when he manipulated the kids up to a point by saying, I'm just like you, I'm alone. I think that was letting out this part of the truth of whatever happened to him when he was a child. It wasn't great. And he feels like the world is a rough, nasty place, and you're always out for number one, and I'll kill anybody who gets in my way. But what I really want is a pirate crew who loves me, and I can go on speeches, and they will applaud, and all of this stuff. And I think that just like that glee, that maniacal laughter as he picks up one piece and the rest falls. It's like everything. This doesn't just buy me adult pleasures of like, I'm going to go back to that spa. And I'll get lots of adult pleasures with money. It's that fantasy that money can make everything go away. That money can make every problem go away. And that all that love, all that real treasure that the kids are experiencing and hunting for, he can buy that now, and he never has to feel frightened or alone. That's to me what I thought was like the biggest animating thing in this episode. Ken, what are your thoughts on the real treasure?
I mean, look, I'll say this. I'll always give it a try, filling my hole with money. Please, the hole in my soul, I should say. Apologies.
But
I mean, at this point,
hey guys,
whatever direction.
Welcome to our new YouTube channel.
I absolutely love what you're saying, and absolutely, and we've talked about this in the previous 6 episodes, where sometimes, the themes of these episodes are almost the Sesame Street brought to you by level, which I love. Not just for us, but for anyone younger. Though it seems, Jen, your kids are way more introspective and insightful than us, even at times. Maybe it seems. But I love that, and so I boil it down to like the real love, not just talking about a Beatles song from the mid '90s, but the idea of what you're talking about, Jod. But the crew loves me, as if he believes that, right? I'd love to know deep in his soul, does he believe that? Does he feel this is working? Does he trust them enough? Like, this is also an episode about trust and faith, and just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Does he truly have faith that the crew is just simply there because they love him, and he's going to lead them to treasure? Like you said, that's the gift he's going to give them. that he failed to do before. But contrasting that to the parent sending that message of love, the one you're talking about, Jen, that moved you, and this concept of real love, which is imperfect and at times imbalanced, depending on who you are in the relationship, and it's messy and it's complicated, and there needs to be apologies and there needs to be tears and all those things. But the parents, at the end of the day, send this message of love, and to see two parties, the kids, the crew, and Jod, and love on the table in front of him. Which one's real and which one is completely manufactured, hollow and false? I'll try it with the money. I'll give it that go personally, but it's not the answer, and that's totally at play in this episode.
Jennifer, how do you feel about this theme, and how do you feel about starting a YouTube channel where we put money in places?
Yeah, it's interesting because that moment where he's trying to communicate with his crew, and he can't, and he's so angry, and there's a layer of sadness that you can also see, because he wants to, it's like he wants their approval, like you guys are saying. He wants that connection, that love, that praise, whatever it is, right? And he can't, and he's like, I have to send that message. And it's one of those things where it's like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, like that thing, you know what I mean? Like, he's there, he's experiencing this incredible moment, but he doesn't really have his crew to share it with, which I think is really kind of what he's seeking in some sense. I don't know. The biggest thing for me that jumped out was really like the wealth disparity, and like, how is Jod really a bad guy? Is he more of like a Robin Hood? I mean, in the previous episode, the pirates are talking about fighting over scraps. The reason that the pirates even exist is because At Attin is so closed off and people are not getting their needs met. So it really does make me wonder, well, what is At Attin the actual villain? Is this whatever, the supervisor? Like, what is going on with that? Obviously Jod went into some very bad territory, yelling at the kids, threatening to kill their parents. Obviously that's not great, but it is interesting that, like, that's bad. That's bad.
Little bit.
He did not hurt the kids. He did not physically hurt the kids. Didn't even hurt the rat. As my kids have pointed out, he's helped them. He saved their lives. He's fed them and things like that. It will be interesting. I don't think he's going to get a full redemption in the next episode, but yeah, it does make the character very complicated, because there are times where I understand what he's doing, not like towards the kids, but I understand his desperation. And it's terrible to see these pirates who are just trying to survive, right? And then you contrast that with this very idyllic suburban, these kids who have, in his eyes, been spoiled, have been sheltered.
Says that
who
word,
have not had
spoiled,
to work, who have not had to fight for food. When there's a life or death situation, they're jumping on the bed, because what do they really know, right? And so it's like there are these moments where I'm like, wow, this is really deep. This is really deep stuff. So
I really agree with that, and I think it's part of the reason the what's the real treasure, family or money, doesn't feel saccharine, because it isn't as simple as that. And I think sometimes when you hear that moral, it can almost be coming from a place of like, don't complain if you have absolutely no wealth. You have family, right? You're fine.
Right.
So you can't really heat your home, and you've been fired unfairly and can't find another job. Don't worry about it. You have love, right? Yeah. I think there, for me, in the real world, and I think it's reflected in Skeleton Crew, there are two truths. Money makes many problems go away, including our absolute basic needs, right?
Yeah.
So we have time to love one another and spend time together, and because we're healthy and fed and all of those things. There's that truth, and then there's, to me, that other truth of like, but also like deep emotional problems aren't going to be fixed by money. Once again, I think the real world is suffering horribly because 6 or 7 billionaire weirdos can't fill the hole in their soul, and they're going to keep trying with as much power and money as possible. Yeah. Their soul holes. So I feel like there's kind of those two truths going on.
Yeah.
The kids didn't know the real world, and maybe the parents don't fully know the real world. And there is a ton of privilege that they're safe and well fed and well clothed and all of those things, in contrast to the pirates. And I think that's one truth. And then another truth is Jod is not going to be able to buy the family and the community that he thinks he is, right? Even in this episode, in last episode, he tries everything on his pirate family. He tries charm. He tries storytelling. He tries just showing that he's smart and knows what's going on, and is kind of frustrated in this episode. Like, he's got favorites in the crew because they're clearly smart enough to get the big picture, and other people are like, God, these guys aren't very smart. But when he ultimately gets them, he has that the crew love me, but he gets the crew through violence and intimidation, through shooting Brutus and basically going, anybody else want to try? Because he's a mutineer, and I'll bleep and kill you. All of those things he's wrestling with are not going to be fixed by that money, but that doesn't mean that the money doesn't have real societal value to people who need it.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch him buy love via fear, right? And how many times that plays out in the real world too.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely want to talk about all those power dynamics, but I wanted to ask you guys about the vault itself. Like, obviously we know the Old Republic credits have value in the galaxy because people think they're rare, right? I mean, maybe in canon they're also, you can melt them down and they have this property or this value or whatever. But what was presented to us in this show is Old Republic credits are valuable because they're so incredibly rare. Which when I saw that vault and saw how full it was, how much sort of wealth they were hoarding, and the knowledge that there's 1,000 plus more vaults this full, to me, it made me think about, like, you know, economies are complex, but like, does he actually have enough treasure to make it valueless? Because if he floods the galaxy with this, it's like it made that picture to me, like, we have this weird tension of like endless gold, endless wealth, you can buy everything, but also because there's so much of it, it's undermining what allegedly gives it value in the real galaxy. Now it's scarcity.
Yeah, I hadn't thought in those terms, and I think it's also would be hilarious if there's a fade in, fade out ending where he's sitting on a pile of money that everyone's like, yeah, we have it now. Sorry. Oh, did you collect Funko Pops? Oh, they're everywhere. They're everywhere now. I'll pay $8 for them.
Yeah, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was the comic book boom, and the comic book companies manipulated young people into buying like 8 variants of this new Batman, because that, and of course, then it flooded the market. And I remember then like needing money in college and going to comic book shows, and I was trying to sell something for like $5, and this older man got angry, and he went back to his own stand and came back with like 20 of the same comic, and be like, really? You think that has value? It was like a very, very vicious real world economic lesson. And John is smart enough that if he got control, he would dole it out slowly.
Yeah.
But it was like, to me, it spoke to like, economies are real because there's only so many resources, and we must share them, and we must distribute them fairly. And we need a way to give, financial value to objects, to trade them, and all of that. But that picture of this is from a different era with a different economy, it sort of broke all that in an interesting way. And I don't know if they'll do a lot with that, but I think it supported the idea of what we're talking about, of that tension between, what's the real treasure versus sort of manufactured treasure.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too that they got this Republic emissary kind of role, right? Which is the outside connecting and inside. So there's some people aware, and we talk about even that in canon connections. But Wynn's dad saying, "Sorry, you were supposed to learn all this when you graduate," was fascinating to me, even to what you're talking about. Yeah, again, are they going to completely do a scene and all that kind of stuff with the economy of the galaxy? Maybe not, but it made me think of that kind of stuff too, of who knows who's using this. And will this become? You talk about the comic book era. I lived the junk wax baseball card era, where they just mass printed garbage cards and then told the kids, save them so you'll be rich one day. Spoiler: I'm not rich. I'm not rich.
You're hiding an Old Republic vault in your shed. I know you are. we've been sort of traipsing into this idea, and I think it connects to a lot of what we're saying. Is I also thought that this episode had a real focus on who has power and why,
Mhm.
and what kind of power are you wielding. Jod is a character. Throughout this, we've seen him wield the power of being a storyteller. We've seen him wield the power of just being charming. We've seen him wield the power of having knowledge. We've seen him wield the power of having legitimate authority, because by a set of rules, he has been appointed the agreed upon leader in different situations. And we've seen him use just the most basic power, violence. Do what I say or I'll kill you. In this episode, it had a lot jumping back and forth to it. I think it had a really elegant thing for the whole show, that in what I think it's the first episode where Fern and Wim have their claimsies battle.
Yeah.
Which just feels like it's a ship. It's lost. Nobody really owns it right now. Claimsies is a childish thing. And then to have that come all the way around to claimsies are now a part of a complex, terrifying adult game to decide who wields power and how do you get power. Is it by a structure of rules? If it is a structure of rules, who's enforcing it? In this case, 33. So this episode just had a lot of vying for different kinds of power. We're seeing Jod fight to be the captain of the crew again, and power can be gained through treasure, manipulation, but ultimately it's gained through violence. Of Brutus was the captain, but I found an opportunity to shoot him in the head, and now you're all afraid I'm going to shoot you, and so you're going to follow me, because they weren't entirely buying all the other arguments he's making. He makes all these claims on the Onyx Cinder, but that all the Onyx Cinder stuff breaks down into there's an agreed upon set of rules. 33 is basically pirate code is, we live in a society.
Society rules.
But that all those pirate codes are constantly reinforced by 33 as an enforcer, using violence, using actual physical strength to reinforce him, which he does again in this episode. And he even kind of bends the rules and decides, I can enforce what I want it to be. The rules are close enough, and I side with the kids. There's an interesting element to me as well, then, of it doesn't make a huge difference necessarily in the episode of who is in control, but there's transfer of ownership via authenticity of what can truly be owned, what is truly yours. And an important thing I think of the real world is, well, when a community, a culture sort of invents something, creates something, there's an authentic ownership to it. In this transfer, this flip, that the Onyx Cinder belongs to us on a moral level. We can play claimsies political games of rules. Whoever has the most violent power will take it. But on this deep, sincere, authentic level, it's not a pirate ship. It's an At Attin ship.
Right.
This violent man can take it from us, but he can never own it because it's not his. It's of us. It's of our culture. So there is all of these different levels of what kinds of power are being asserted by who, in which are successful. And the episode even ends on that of, Jod is wearing fake legitimacy. He's pretending to be the emissary. And this code of rules in this fake title gives him power. And he's throwing it around saying, I want to see the supervisor and bring me your finest refreshments. Throwing around fake, inauthentic power that's granted to him by a structure. And then the real power behind that is that threat of violence of, I'm going to enforce it by threatening to kill your parents. So all of these different ways to hold and maintain and look at power. Ken, any thoughts on that thematic?
Runs deep. Claimsies should hold up in courts of law, I think. Jen, I want to know your kids' view on that. No, I'm really drawn in by not just, it wasn't just him saying, I'm the Republic emissary, wink, right? It was like everyone there, just the droids were like, got it, great, no questions, no scan docs needed. Come on in. This is what we've been waiting for. It's your normal check. And how he uses that versus the kids really learning, and like you said, who they are, and the joy of, no, this is our ship. This is an At Attin ship. Was a great revelation for them, especially towards the end of their journey. So I don't know how Jod's going to fall and how the authenticity is going to be ripped away or pull back from his the veils he's put down. But interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Jennifer, how do you think about looking at the episode from an idea of power and who wields it and why and how and all that?
I would focus more on, like, for me, the contrast in his performance when he is checking into the spa. He's very charming. He's very likable. I'm kind of rooting for him, even when he's been like, when he was trying to sweet talk Kim, like, there's just this thing where I'm like, oh, I can see how he's been able to manipulate people in the galaxy. But when he goes down into the vault, there is a coldness, a mean edge to his tone when he's demanding the refreshments. I chuckled, but it was like more of a nervous chuckle. I didn't like it. Like it was just mean. He just evil, right? And you can just feel his greed, and there's desperation. And I was mad. I'm like, why are they taking him to the vault? Like, why are they just automatically taking him there? Like, take him to the supervisor. I don't know if the supervisor's there. I couldn't watch with subtitles, like I said. My kids were chatting, so I'm sure I missed some crucial pieces of information. But for me, that was what really stood out, was just the different tone that he took. His mask had finally been ripped off. He ripped it off himself.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's that, like, I totally agree with you with his energy. And the whole thing feels like a wounded kid. It's not. I don't think he's like turning to the dark side, but it feels like that sort of the Star Wars, like there, but for the grace of the powers go I. I think many of us have it in us to be like, I know the better thing is to be calm, to be charming, to make my argument and ask people to come along with me, to figure out a way to have legitimate and authentic power in a situation. But then you get mad and just like, there's something primal, and you're just like, but I deserve it and I want it all. And it feels like he has spent this entire show being like, I can't just grab what I want, so I need to slowly work toward my goals and convince this person and make this move. And he just has kind of lost this any patience and given in to like all of his worst instincts. And he's just like, I've tricked this easily tricked system of rules into giving me power blindly. And I think that's, we're really going to be dealing with this power issue in the final episode when we find out exactly what's going on At Attin, because people are following a bunch of rules that a broken system that gives power to the wrong people. So I love that it was so sad and selfish of like, it was the Bilbo meme of why shouldn't I take the ring? I'll just give in to the selfishness and the anger. I'll take the power through violence and through lies and through intimidation and I'll give me everything you got. Is nasty.
And a system manipulated so easily by those things is one to worry about and question, right? That's all it takes is someone with a few lies and a strong fist, and you're under the thumb.
Well, and I thought that was going on with the parent story too. Of the parents got to the point of the sort of like, we have this legitimate and authentic responsibility to our children. We have to break the rules. We have to defy the systems of power that we have agreed to and followed and believe in, because there's a moral imperative to help our children. Even getting down to that line where I believe it's one of KUB's mothers says the problem is you droids don't listen. But it is it's really the way the parents send the message is interesting to me about power and systems of self-governance, because they're basically like, we're going to break all the rules by sending this because we think that rule is BS and holding us back from a higher moral imperative, which is to help our kids. But we actually know the reason that we can't let anybody know our actual location. So we're actually not going to break that rule. We're going to bend that rule. And it was the first time we got to see the parents, anybody on Attin, not just blindly follow the rules because they're the rules and they're enforced by droids, unthinking droids, but to have them go, this rule doesn't matter. It's BS. This rule does matter. For the first time, we're seeing parents go, what's the why of the rules on At Attin? And because I'm asking the why, I can throw this one away and I can only bend this one because this one really matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I think
fascinated
it's
by
a
that. Go ahead, Jen.
it's a really clear commentary on automation and how easily these rules can be broken and manipulated. These parents are trying to get their children back, and the droids are like, "No, that is against the policy. You know, you cannot do this." This is like fighting for human life, right? And there's no sense of urgency. And then this guy lies and is like, "Oh yeah, I'm his emissary. Come right in. Let me lead you to the money." It's like, how much more
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
much more clear do we need to have it shown to us? Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is just, oh, unfortunately we see this time and again in our world where it's just like, help the people, someone help the people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were sure, wealthy person in the government, come on in.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and to your point, the whole droid system is designed to protect and facilitate the movement of the money.
Mm-hmm.
And if the kids get caught in that, too bad.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Profit
So
over people.
yeah, I think we're definitely really heading toward some reckoning with that system. I did want to ask you guys in terms of kind of who has power and how they wield it. How did you feel about 33's choice? Because, you know, there's the revelation of he's following the rules as he always does. That the pirate code says you can't be captain of both ships. Wim yells out claimsies.
Mm-hmm.
Jod covers his mouth and reclaims the pirate ship using all the technical jargon he's supposed to for the rules. And then Fern pulls this weird thing of like, I invented a new rule called on claimsies. And that is a sort of like, should we follow adult rules or should we follow sort of like emotional rules of kids where you invent a rule? It's creative and flowing. I invented a new rule for the pirate code. It's called on claimsies. And 33 does seem to just, he has the, that's not a thing, but it's close enough. So it does appear to me that he rejects all of the rules that he normally follows in a rigid system of the pirate code, which has been used to manipulate him, and just chooses the kids in a very organic way. Jennifer, how did you read 33's choice?
Yeah, that he has free will. He's choosing to exercise his own free will in this moment and make a judgment call, which is what he had not been doing. It just felt great. It was a moment where we all cheered, and I think most people did. It was just like, yay, finally. I did not want for him to follow the rules. Go with your gut, droid.
Yeah. Ken, how did you feel about 33's choice?
Great moment that ends in absolute tragedy. Oh my God. I really hope 33 comes back. Oh, you just plug some stuff back in. I think it's similar to what you're talking about with the parents, right? I think in that moment, SM33 asks himself the why of the rules. Just that response works for me. Whatever it can, whatever I need to stand up to you and defend these kids and have a droid, form some sort of, I'd say a bond with them, even though it's always been from him just simply following the pirate code and the changing tides in that. I think it's a great victory moment for this character and how it builds to that from when we first meet him to now. Just simply saying, that works for me. I'm going with my gut, my droid gut, and my eye hole rat gut. I'm helping these kids. Doesn't work out at this point, at least, but I love the droid. Nick Frost deserves a lot of applause too for his performance as this character and the team that brought it alive.
Yeah, and I just loved it because I think it really did, reassert 33 is as much of a sort of parental role model to the kids as Jod. Like they're going out into the galaxy wondering, what is the galaxy like? What is it like to be an adult? Can we trust any adult? And they look to 33 for protection early on. They get it. And then they're betrayed by him. So it's nice that he's on a different path, the opposite path of Jod of like, actually, no, at the end of the day, now that I know you, I choose you. And I will stand up for you and protect you. Mm-hmm. Not because you manipulated me into it by a manipulation of the rules, but that I chose you is really powerful. Mm-hmm. If they're sitting there thinking like, what are adults like? I hope more of them are like 33 than Jod.
Absolutely. Yeah. I choose you. Yeah.
I also just last kind of thematic thing for me is I think the show has been a show about adventure, a show about kids facing the dark forest and having to go in there, and all of it being sort of a metaphor for what it is to be an adult. I thought Neil's line of yeah, it was a real adventure. Half the time I was about to die, but that's what a real adventure is like.
Mhm.
Not only a funny line, but I think just like a great truth, that obviously for adventures, half the time you're not about to die, but half the time you're frightened on a primal level because this is something scary and different. And in order to get the wonder and the glory, you have to pass through the fear. Does seem like a great metaphor for adulthood. And I think it's powerful that Neil is sort of like in his funny comedy line processing, like, I think I get it. I think I kind of have this map to unlock what it feels like to be an adult. It's confusing and it's scary. And you push through the fear and you get a reward. And that's okay sometimes. And that's good. And I think, as you were both saying, all the parents' actual act at the beginning to do it is an adventure. They're doing something incredibly scary to get to the wonder and the joy of reconnecting to their kids and being proud of themselves that they did the right thing. And all of it looks like, I think those are some of the shots that were in some of the early trailers of the flashlights in the woods. And find out that's not the kids, that's the adults having a childlike adventure in order to save them is great. Ken, how did you feel about this sort of ongoing what is adventure theme this episode?
That's a great point on the trailer thing, because it was pitched as kids on bikes and forests kind of ambling adventure. It was the parents. That's amazing. I wrote that down too as almost like a thesis statement for the entire show. Not only in just the words, but the way Neil delivered it. He had this kind of leaning back in the chair, like, it's just what it is. Hey. It made me do a roll call of all the little things he's experienced and the growth he's had. All these characters that the kids bring so much to the table, and we all can connect with them so many ways. I just continue to be not seeing myself in Neil. I got rid of overalls after 79, but just. I love there was this not world weariness, but this I've been there. I've seen things kind of vibe from Neil in that moment that I thought is kind of what we've been tracking this entire series of this adventure, these stories. And even Brutus has that the line. What's the line I wrote it out of? A whole plan is that we all came here for more fables. Which is just kind of the counter of that. So love that.
Yeah, Jennifer, how did you feel about the ongoing? What is the true nature of adventure?
I saw it as, these kids are living life. They're going through these trials and tribulations as all people do. And they're seeing that you can come out of that. That is just a part of life. And hopefully, there's going to be some scary moments, but hopefully you come on the other side and you're like, well, I got through that. It's okay, right? You faced your fears or whatever it is, whether it's a roller coaster for my kids or, an adventure with pirates where it's life or death. So I just thought that it was such a great delivery. It was really I got this. I can face anything now that I've been through that.
Yeah. And you get the sense that if he continued talking to be like, but I would prefer to be with my little brother in bath time and slap ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was great to know what it is, but I'll pass. Thanks. Which I'm still, I think that speech that Jod gave to Wim a couple episodes back of live the life you want to live was sincere. And I'm so curious to see, if this show ends by the kids kind of picking the life they want to live. And Neil's like, no, I'm really great with At Attin. And Wim goes out and has an adventure and, all that kind of story.
Yeah.
And I, as we go into the final episode, I do feel like it's continuing to continue to have that sort of pressure on fantasy versus reality. Neil's got his head wrapped around reality. Wim is maybe even more down on the idea that fantasy and stories of heroism have any power. The pirates are getting to experience At Attin, which was a myth, but now it's going to be real. And that's always a tension when a myth becomes reality. I think the parents understand some things about At Attin, but I don't think they understand that the galaxy ain't the same galaxy they knew. That's going to be a colliding of fantasy and reality, which I'm really curious to see how it goes.
Indeed.
That's it for my thoughts on the themes. Anything else from you, Ken?
No, a lot there. I appreciate you taking us through that. But yeah, this show continues to be. We always joke about how Andor is pretty direct in what it's saying about the world, but this one's pretty direct too, but wrapped up in just a different package. And I think that's why it's working so well. Jen?
I got nothing. I just got notice that I got to go rescue my kids because their school is being shut down. So
do you need to pop off now then, and we'll just take the show home here. We just unless you have any,
I think I will. I will. It's all good. They're fine. But it's just the smoke that this is concerned about. So
yeah. Hey.
Don't let any droids stop you.
That's right.
Please.
No droids.
So there you go.
Yet in LAUSD. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Stay safe.
We will.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay. Bye.
The whole episode too. Yeah, just checking for those fire alerts and going broadcasting here in the end times. Having adventures. Great stuff on the themes. Looking at costumes and creatures and characters. Nothing particularly new, but just in terms of you mentioned it, the vault. Wonderful design, and I love the time it took to get there. It reminded me a little bit of I was waiting for like Slarty Bartfast to come out and talk about building planets. It just had that boom, bigger and deeper, and the fact that it was deep, that this like soccer field opens up, or and the truth is underneath it.
Yeah, and I was really surprised by I thought the power was it's a mint, they can make it, but to see that much of it piled up and to know that there's that much of it, I thought was really that was great design. Yeah. There were 2 aliens in the scene where the elevator with the ship on it began to descend. There were 2 aliens on the lawn that maybe we've seen them before in the show, but I didn't track them. There's a green furry one in front and a blue furry one in back, the kind of dark eyes and weird antenna that look like a combination of Dr. Seuss and the alien from that film Mac and Me.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe they've been in Star Wars before. This is the first time I saw them, and I had a great moment of like, oh, I'm so into the show. I'm into the ideas, the emotions. What the hell are those guys?
They stood. They stood out to me. One, we still keep saying, a lot of people keep pointing out that Neil and his family are so far the only of their species that we've seen on the planet, to my knowledge. So I kind of I was actually looking for it, and then the Mac and Me connection is great. Should we call them like Ruddians in honor of Paul Rudd and his ongoing bit? But they really did stand out. I love that you pointed out that the Dr. Seuss vibe of them there as well. I'm fascinated. Like, I don't know if we're going to get the next week we have one episode and maybe 30 to 45 minutes, maybe 50. Who knows? I don't know the runtime. Don't care to know until the episode drops. But we're not going to get this roll call of answers in any of this, and I never expect that. But I could take like an At Attin history book and learning all about this, because I'm really fascinated by the fact that they've kind of revealed. Yeah, we kind of know. And you graduate, you get the information. A Republic emissary, I'm assuming a new Republic emissary now, but maybe a Republic and High Republic, who knows how long that's been happening. I even had a thought of like, is Leia showing up? Is something weird? And I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But, I'm fascinated by that kind of one strand of connection, which hasn't have to, but the reason I was thinking about it includes the aliens, includes all the species that we see.
I think these aliens will be identified probably on StarWars.com as we're speaking.
Sure,
they just got to be identified. But that is true. I know we've moved on to costumes and creatures and characters, but I did want to ask your opinion on that line. Was great of you aren't supposed to know this until graduation, because there's yet another line that was sort of like metaphor for becoming an adult. Of it was, obviously it's like you're not supposed to, in the rules of At Attin, learn the rules and the truth of At Attin until you graduate. But it was also like you weren't supposed to know about blasters and spa sex planets.
Right.
You weren't supposed to know about any of this until you graduated.
So true.
You weren't supposed to know how lousy other adults can be. What do you? Well, I will get into it when we talk about the future, right? But I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on what you think the adults know on At Attin and what they don't.
I think they know maybe what they do as a planet, and again, how, the money that they are making is not thought to even be real in the quote unquote real galaxy. That's the pirate reaction, but people know it, and it's Old Republic. Trying to think the real world example other than I remember old dollar bills, but that's not what I'm talking about. So it's like, all right, we know kind of what we do, but maybe the house, the whys, the supervisor, the connection, the other planets. Like, do they know of at Akron, Ohio? Do they know of that? Are they all isolated? Is each planet like we wonder to the 7 jewels? Is each one a failed attempt to do just this? And I don't think they have that sense. And maybe that these kids come back with that knowledge and information. It's not unlike, I don't think it's necessarily going to go this deep, but it's not unlike our calls for the better way to do generational change and growth and exchange of an old generation knowing the way it works, but a new generation saying, hey, with some additional information, this might change some things, and how do you go forward with that? I don't think it's going to be at play next week, but it's kind of hangs over it all like a maelstrom hiding a planet to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see. I thought there was a line in the earlier episodes about them getting supplies from off-world. So maybe they're still getting supplies, but it to me it felt partially like they're using the term republic because just like nobody called World War One during World War One.
Right.
They're not calling it the Old Republic because it wasn't the Old Republic then. It was the Republic.
Right.
Hadn't had a chance to get old yet.
Exactly.
That I wonder if there is a part that they just that the system has just been going on and they don't know how much the galaxy has changed.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. And
Yeah,
we
they
must,
know-
yeah.
Yeah, they know they're meant. The adults seemed surprised when the Earth started to open up and that elevator was there.
Completely, right?
Like not a thing that happens every third Tuesday. Like they didn't know about it.
Yeah, and we're sliding definitely into the canon connections and the larger story.
Sorry.
No, this is I had less to say in the character section anyway. So, but like, I agree with you. I think there was the whole sequence was surprising to a lot of folks. Where I don't even think Farah, Carrie Condon's character, like, I don't think she's met the supervisor. I don't think anyone knows who the supervisor is. We hear a voice. I don't believe that voice. I wasn't trying to.
Sounded Wizard Vazi,
Yes, actually, right? Yeah, it absolutely sounded like the Wizard of Oz voice. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So how far goes? That's why I think that's going to be part of the big mystery. Some of the mysteries to be revealed next week. But I always try to temper my expectations for all the reveals in the final episode. But you know what I mean.
Too.
Yeah,
me too. My expectations are I just want this story to resolve. For characters and creatures, I did want to shout out Pax, the Gran with the eye patch. I thought, just cool design. I haven't really focused on before.
The pirates have been great.
That. Yeah. In terms of canon connections, we did have the almost saying of the "I have a bad feeling about this" line from Neil's mom, Numa. How did you feel about that? Was that there hasn't been a lot of this sort of a little bit more playful wink, wink, nod, nod. Let's do this Star Wars tradition. How did you feel about that one being included?
You know what? I actually completely missed it, so I'll have to go back and reveal it. But she's such a great character. I'm curious about the father. He's just a very stoic man who has a job to work. He's down at the factory. We don't see him. We just see him, right? You don't hear him. I'll have to go back and review that. But that's. But I agree with you on they have the THX 1138 call out. With the other 11,138 volts. But yeah, I've enjoyed that. But it's such a weird. I even was talking to someone the other day who absolutely enjoys the hell out of the series, and they haven't enjoyed the hell out of any Star Wars series for a while. And they were celebrating this, but they too had that. Like, I'm so glad it just doesn't wedge things in from Star Wars characters and sayings and all those kind of things. And I totally get that. Like I said, I don't think Leia's going to show up as the emissary. I don't think anyone. I don't think Crix Maydene's going to show up as the emissary. But I sometimes bristle against that bristling of it's just fun. So having things kind of go up to the edge and remind you it's still Star Wars, it works for me. But that included last week. I love oh my God, X-wings. I hear those are called X-wings. I love that moment.
Yep. I think for me, it's just all about how it's executed and. What has been great about Skeleton Crew is truly not knowing the fate of these characters, the fate of this planet. And I think that can be the difficult thing with known stories and characters of kind of, it's really cool to see this character now, but we know they need to end up at XYZ point by this time. And I think it puts so much logic barrier in front of people attaching to their emotions, and I think that's partially what I'm feeling, and maybe what other people are feeling with Skeleton Crew. Like, there are fewer logic barriers to just emotional connection.
And I thought it worked really well, the Acolyte, in terms of just not knowing the characters where they're going, and that it was
Yep.
you could be very it was very effective with the deaths or even the non-deaths. I thought it worked, so I get it.
But there was much hand wringing about, well, can he be a Sith? Can he not be a Sith? You know,
Right,
and once we got to Plagueis, well, then how did that? You know, like, and there isn't so far any of this. Like, we know why those X-wings are there. We know what era we're in, and anyway, yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, for canon wise, the internal canon of the show, it was great to see the slap ball.
Yeah, a big fan of it.
Huge fan.
Yeah.
The security droids, they kept being like, they remind me of some voice in Star Wars. What is it? And they sound a little like the Kaminoans to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Measured, even, here are the rules, cadence that they have.
Yeah.
Reminded me of,
so that's your theory then, that the supervisor is actually Lot Dodd? No, not Lot Dodd. Why did I say Lot Dodd?
Tanwi. Yeah,
Tanwi.
Tanwi didn't make it, right? And then my only other canon connection, and it would amuse me if a lot of people did videos about this. Did you notice this? We did see a blue lightsaber used against children. So, you know, a little bit of a canon shout out to Anakin Skywalker there.
Absolutely. Just the canon of the lightsaber. We knew we had one there. We'd heard it. Him kind of having it on his hip and using it as I got this, but to actually see it, it was an exciting reveal for a bad reason, and I love you connecting it to the Source Bandim of it all.
Yep. And we'll see what happens with that blade. I do hope that it is raised on the light side in an act of actual heroism at some point before this is over.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, moving to questions and concerns of this episode and the big questions and theories going forward. The fate of the man we sometimes call Jod to know, but it's up in the balance for me. I'm still hoping, and I'm still hoping for redemption, but I know there's, you know, some of the traditional and famous pirate stories are out there, Long John Silver and everything. It's been a long time since I've studied pirates. I had my ninja year. 4th grade was ninjas. I think 3rd or 5th was pirates. So I didn't read all those stories, and I haven't read them for a while. I'm intentionally not looking up anything that they might draw anything from. I don't know the end of it. Don't anyone comment. No need. I'm enjoying my ignorance. But I am not certain that he survives. I'm not certain that he is fully redeemed. I'm not certain where he goes. The answers, the comeuppance might be very much on the way or coming down the elevator shaft. But I don't know where I want it to go, because I've been so affected and moved by this character in a way, both in the good ways, what he might be, and the bad ways of, I hope I can avoid that in my own life. I'm rooting for good, but I don't know. It's not a guarantee to me.
Yeah, what I'm just feeling on an emotional level is that the portrait of Jod is not he's good or bad, but it's sad that he has unresolved trauma. It's a weird prediction, but I just kind of feel like that, like Jenn was saying, he's following his nastiest instincts, right? And he's being awful, but that's not the full truth of him. And the full truth of him isn't that he's a great guy either. Yeah. And I think I almost feel like if this is a show about the kids finding out how does the real world work, what are adults like, and just seeing like, well, sometimes, you know, adults are really, really sad and they don't deal with that and they make bad choices. And, you know, if the kids come to a point of like, he's not all a bad guy, he's sad.
Yeah.
You know, and on a functional level, I do feel like whatever happens, we have to deal with the truth of who the supervisor is. And my wondering is, I hadn't really been on board with the supervisor is Tack Renaud or Tack Renaud's brain in a jar. But now I'm kind of wondering if maybe it is, because I feel like whatever the truth of the supervisor is, it's got to shake the kids and Jod and the parents.
Right.
And I wonder if it's on a real functional level. I wonder if the revelation of who the supervisor is, it becomes a physical threat, right? The supervisor shows up and reasserts the droids, and everybody who knows anything about this needs to be cleansed. And I wonder if there could be a moment where Jod ignites the blade to defend the kids from a threat that is not him.
Right. Yeah, that would track.
Yeah, because I think if it was like, I don't think he has it in them to actually do violence to the kids.
Agreed.
You know, and I think if it was, hey, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect my treasure, but with one swing of this lightsaber, I can decide whether they live or die, he's going to save them.
Yeah.
If it doesn't hurt him or his treasure,
yeah,
he's going to save them. And so I think maybe that could be the sort of like, it isn't a triumphant, turns out he's a Jedi all along and he's a real hero, but more they just, in this moment, he could have walked away and let the supervisor's droids kill him. But he held up that blade in defense. And so Wim gets to see, like, it's not quite the stories I read, because the stories I read are not that simple, but there's a kernel of truth in them, that you can raise that blade's a choice. And you can use it to threaten people violently, or you can use it to defend people and actually be a hero. And to see Jod do both, I think, would have some nice complexity to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The blade being a choice is a great thematic statement. Question to ask the characters too. Yeah. The supervisor coming down into the vault and being some sort of authority that ain't gonna treat everybody right. Because again, if this is previous 6 worlds haven't worked out, but it's still him. He's King No Head. Yeah, I could see him not being the wise old friendly. If Wilford Brimley was alive, he would have come back to the Star Wars world as the supervisor. I don't see it being that. But having a connection to the Tack Renard or the Ghost of Renard or Renard's son, I don't know, who cares. But like if it's related to Jod's story in a way, it totally would work out for me that way. No solid prediction for me, but yeah.
But there, I mean, do you feel is some fans do that the Chekhov's giant roof cannon is going to come into play? That there's a matching cannon that only Neil knows about among our heroes?
It totally does, because this series has done such a good job, even in this episode with KB using the voice modulator. There's been so many little crumbs along the way, even if they're obvious along the way, or it could be like this one. Like everyone, a lot of people pointed that out, and I do think it would pay off, and I think it would work for me. Because that the skills and everything you've picked up along the way, we talked about last week, they're into the third act. Everything they've gone through has put them here, and now they're going forward stronger. That works for me, but just on a prediction kind of matrix, that absolutely, I kind of want to see that. Neil going, I got it, run to the top.
How do you feel about the possibility of Kim showing up with the New Republics, with the X-Wings? I think that's also been, Kim is obviously fascinated and wants to find out the truth, and she was on the path toward it, right?
I think
Jod's got some of the information, but Kim seems pretty smart.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe there is a third beat to play with the X-Wings and the New Republic of, we shot at them because we were lied to about what they were. We realized they are quote-unquote good guys, and now, what if they show up to save the day in some way?
Absolutely. A third beat's a great way to describe that. I'd put a lot of money down on that happening too. Kim's a great character, and if it's just a one shot, awesome. But there's so much there that it makes those sense. And just her being connected to the New Republic in that way, where they're communicating with her, and then they find the pirates on another planet. Yeah, absolutely, makes sense to me.
How this is my biggest question and concern. How fully resolved do you expect this story to be versus a setup for a potential season 2?
I have a feeling I think it's going to be very resolved. Maybe some bigger questions lingering, and that is looking at the interviews. Who knows? But Watson, Ford talking about, we'd love to do a season 2. We have an idea. It would involve years ahead, because we don't even know how old. We just saw them at the premiere, we're going to see them at the premiere. We'll see how old they are. I that to me speaks of, unless they're completely hiding their cards, of we had one shot. We had pitched initially a movie, and I know people keep saying that, but I'm sure that was just a conversation on set with John. Who knows? Maybe John even said, don't worry about a movie. They're not doing movies anymore. Let's do a series. This was years ago now, right? So I think it was conceived as a one shot. So that's what I'm hoping for. A lot of answers next week.
I really I would love it if this ends with like, hey, this is At Attin's place in the galaxy now. Jod is imprisoned or chased away, but he lives. The kids look toward the future and kind of choose some of their life paths. So it all feels like totally resolved, but also we could tell another story with the kids. We could tell another story about At Attin. We could tell another story about Jod. I hope this chapter ends definitively, and we're looking to the future. Really hope there isn't any sort of like a bunch of threads are left dangling, because this story has been so great. I want to see it complete, and I also like if we lived in a different time set up for chapter 2, a cliffhanger would be okay with me, but like the kids are older. Not getting season 2s a lot. I really want this to feel like a complete meal. So that's my biggest hope. For the finale.
Yeah, I'm hoping for another, a Skeleton Crew anthology series, right, where something else happens and we'll see, what answers we get. But yeah, these characters showing up in other properties, other within the Star Wars galaxy, I think I'd be on board for. But I'd love to have, them do it all again.
Yeah,
back to
Neil was at the Battle of Exegol. That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying. He was in one of those ships. Was him.
Yep. Final thing for me, the other thing that I'm really hoping for is I'm so attached to that make your life the one you want to live advice that Jod gives to Wim. And I feel like if this has been a story about adventure and a story about sheltered, protected kids who come from a society that is not being entirely honest with them and is locking them into rigid modes, I hope that we do have that. Here's the big adventure. Here's the conclusion. And now we kind of check in at the end of the episode with each kid of what life are they choosing. And like this, I think it would be really beautiful to see like different paths are okay. That Neil's like, I love At Attin. Even now that the truths are exposed, I don't care. This is what I want. I want a comfortable, safe life. Yeah. And Wim saying, I love you, Dad. I love you, At Attin, but I need to go explore. I need to get out of here, Yeah. And Fern and KB both, Fern taking on some sort of leadership role, KB finding her voice, whatever those sort of life choices they make, that they make some slightly different ones, I think would be a really nice button on the idea of what is adulthood.
I definitely want the hobbits having a beer in a world they don't belong in anymore moment, but different ways to approach it. And I'm not saying I need I don't need the American Graffiti text endings. If Wim went on to join the New Republic Army and everything, but I do kind of also want that in a way, you know what I mean? Because I really love these characters, and there's no guarantee going forward. And you're not going to lock yourself into too much canon, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that's absolutely right. That all 4 of them might be like, hey, cool. When we graduate, we want to leave. We want to go to I'm going to go work at the spa. That might be it. And Neil's staying in his bath. Yeah.
I hope that's the last shot. The circle closes on Neil enjoying his bath.
Home. Yes. Love it. Well, as always, we ask ourselves the final question. If you had one toy based on these episodes, what would it be? I mean, I don't know. I'll take the Old Republic credits, but
in Old Republic, a big play set. Man, I want blue shirt Jod, mean Jod with lightsaber. But one of the other things the episode, so far we mostly haven't really got an up close look at Neil's mouth. We got an upshot there of Nema, his mom, with them big freaky marshmallow teeth. Yeah. So I want a Nema action figure with big freaky marshmallow teeth.
You're so right. That's a great thing to point out because we hadn't seen that. Yeah. Beautiful. I'll take that. I'll take the marshmallows. Just take the marshmallows. Nema teeth marshmallows. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. For me, I will. The Jod figure. Now that we got one Jod figure down, let's get some more and explore that. I was gonna say you wouldn't want to buy whatever happens to this lightsaber. We'll see, but I don't know if it'll be a top seller at Galaxy's Edge. The lightsaber used to threaten children, but hey, like to your point, Anakin's is, so it's a hero blade now, so we're good. But I'll take that. Yeah. I don't know. I did my own question. I didn't have the right answer, but maybe a Neil plush one day in overalls.
Yeah. Neil Plush. Yep. Half the time I felt like I was going to die. That's what he says when you squeeze him.
Squeeze them. Absolutely. That is it. That is our dive. I want a deep dive. Thank you for bringing the deep today. It's been a weird time out here trying to watch these episodes with everything going on. I just got the episode in last night before the power went out. So with all three of our focuses in a lot of different spots. So we appreciate you all hanging with us. We are ForceCenter. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod, Instagram, Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe here, hit that notification bell. You can get merch at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter or at our Fourth Wall shop down below. You can get the podcast anywhere you have podcasts. Just search, you'll find us, and support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Follow me at Ken Napzok, or go to my website, kennapzok.com. At this very moment, we're still doing a show Friday night in downtown Burbank. If you're local, please come on out. It's still planning, it's still going. But if that changes, and that would be understandable if it did, we'll let you all know. Sir, where can they find you? Oh, follow Jennifer Landa, wherever you can follow Jennifer Landa. Links down below. You?
Yeah, you can follow me on various social media as they crumble one by one. But in particular, Blue Sky, which if you haven't checked it out yet, continues to be no algorithm. It's the posts of the people you follow in the order that you follow them, with so far links to outside locations on the internet not being downplayed and hidden. So I really recommend checking out Blue Sky and seeing if it's for you. My handle there is Joseph Scrimshaw, like everywhere else, and you can check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for lots of other stuff, including all the film work that I'm doing right now.
There you go. All right, that is it. So for all the old Republic credits in the world, we'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.